The 500 or so people in the theater that night were not as fond of his sense of humor as he thought he might be.
It did not go over as well as he thought.
I mean, as if you need to add shit to The Exorcist.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Mr. Crowe, an honor to see you again, sir. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Loved you in this. Love the movie. And I got 1,000 questions for you. I'm going to start off, and forgive me if this is a stupid question, but you obviously worked with the great Max von Sydow on Robin Hood. Is there any chance you guys spoke about his experience on The Exorcist whenever you guys were working together?
No, we didn't actually. We didn't talk about that.
I'm going to push it a step further then. Is there anything, having now had this experience yourself, is there anything retroactively that you would love to maybe have asked about his experience to compare it to your own experience?
Well, it would be a very interesting conversation with Max talking about that period of his life for sure. No doubt, he's a great conversationalist and tells a good story. But we didn't actually. I can't remember. I should probably ask Kate Blanchett because we might have had a chat, and she'd be the one to remember that. I've got too much other rubbish in my mind to to remember stuff like that. But I definitely enjoyed working with Max and enjoyed his company developing the scenes that we did together.
Speaking of The Exorcist, this movie takes place in the 80s, a decade or so after The Exorcist came out. So I'm sort of curious, in your research, Father Amorth, did you ever learn about how that movie or that entire sensation affected him and his profession and just the Catholic Church as a whole?
Well, it's well documented that The Exorcist was Amorth's favorite film. And him and Friedkin became friends. And Friedkin actually did a long format documentary on the work of Father Amorth. So, I mean, there's a statement in one of his books somewhere where the closest feature film to his experience in the reality of his job was The Exorcist.
Wow. Horror is actually my favorite genre of all time, and I love it because it has power. It has the power to change people's behavior. After Jaws, people stopped going to the beach. After The Exorcist, people started going to church. What's the most a horror film has ever affected your behavior, made you behave in a way that you didn't until you saw that film?
Well, I'm kind of the opposite to you, Jacob. I don't like horror films. I avoid them. I like sleeping deeply at night. I saw The Exorcist when I was 14. It wasn't when it was first released. It was probably its fourth or fifth run. I saw it in a theatre in Auckland, New Zealand. And halfway through the movie, the theatre usher thought it was a funny joke to take a broom and smack it against the ceiling of the theatre. The 500 or so people in the theatre that night were not as fond of his sense of humor as he thought he might be.
It did not go over as well as he thought.
I mean, as if you need to add shit to The Exorcist. Excuse me, my good man. Sit down.
There is a beautiful shot in this film, and I don't want to say the context or where it's at in this film, but it's a beautiful shot of you walking away from the Colosseum. I'm sort of curious, was there ever a moment where you had to pause and go, do I want to do this? Is it too on the nose? Is it too distracting? Or people going to point and go, oh, look, there's Russell in the Coliseum again. Was there ever a conversation about that shot at all?
I just think we laughed. We thought it was a funny thing to do. And we got the benefit of being able to shoot in Rome. And, when we put our list of requests for where we might like to shoot, that was one of the options that they came back and gave us. And it just, I mean, within the context of the film, it still makes sense. You can watch that shot and not have any other association. But it's also just a little bit of a nudge and a wink. I mean, it's the thing with this particular horror film. As much as there's scary stuff going on, there's still quite a good deal of humor in the film.
He had a
lot of good laughs.
He had a brilliant sense of humor, which you pull off perfectly, which I think is fantastic. I'm going to cut you loose on this. I love movie history. And I love movie urban legends, and there are so many legends about unexplainable things that happened on the set of The Exorcist. And I'm curious if there was anything unexplainable that happened on this set or on any set you've been in, the most unexplainable thing where something happened and you go, I have no idea what the hell that was.
Well, actually, probably the weirdest period of time was, for me, related to a film was when I did that movie Unhinged. I was staying in a house, and a whole bunch of stuff kept happening. Like lights would turn on and off, and and when we actually arrived in the middle, at the beginning of a summer, there was a big swimming pool at the house, but somebody had left the heater on. So the swimming pool was like hotter than a bath, and it was New Orleans in the summertime. So, trying to cool that water down, it was crazy. But anyway, so one day I'm sitting with the people that work for me and work with me, we was just sitting in the kitchen. I said, has anybody else noticed this thing going on with the lights yet? And everybody had. They all had, So there was a lot of strange stuff going on in that house, and the corridors, because it must have been built on a swamp or something in New Orleans. The corridors had a slight lean to them, and you might walk down the corridor on this side of the house and it leaned that way, but then you'd walk up the other side and it would lean, or so this one was downhill and this one was uphill. It was very odd. But here's the kicker on this, right? And a whole bunch of weird things happened. People got, these two people that came over for dinner both fell over at the same point. That was weird. But dead birds kept being dropped off at the back door of this house. Like, it happened more than once, right? And somebody told me that Will Smith had rented the house, right? And I assumed it was Will Smith, the actor. So I'm doing a movie in New Orleans about road rage, but then I find that I am living in Will Smith, the football player's house, New Orleans Saints football player, who had been killed in a road rage incident. So I'll just leave you to contemplate all that.
What the fuck? Oh my God, that was unbelievable. They're giving me the rap trying to kick me out of here. Mr. Crowe, I just want to say, just our first interview, I was 20 years old, and you've put me on your schedule for every movie since, and you've gone out of your way to be unbelievably kind and generous to me. And I just want to say thank you, sir, and just let you know I appreciate you, I value you, and I really do appreciate you always being so great to me.
Good on you, Jake. You're looking great at the moment, man. You're looking just cool. The hair's on point. Good on you, bro.
I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate you. Good to see you, my friend. Hope to see you in person soon.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.